Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tom. I'm an Open University student. I'm studying computing and IT, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about Open University basics. Before we get started, I just want to say this is for anyone that is interested in Open University or has recently just signed up to Open University. Obviously, if you have any experience studying with Open University, then this might not be the video just for you. Obviously, feel free to stick around and watch if you want, but don't be surprised if you don't learn anything. This is basically for people who are just looking at Open University and just want to gain more knowledge of what it's like to study with. When studying with Open University, you first need to start off with picking your course. As far as I know, they have over 40 undergraduate courses, and each one you can either do a level 1, which is what they call level 1, a certificate, which is 1 year's full-time studying and 2 years part-time studying. It's worth 120 credits. Or there's a level 2 diploma, which is 240 credits, takes 2 years full-time or 4 years part-time. And then there's obviously the degree, which is 360 credits, and it is 3 years full-time, 6 years part-time. You of course can mix that up. You might go full-time for 2 years and then part-time for another 2 years, taking 4 years. It's completely down to you. It's just a minimum and maximum amount of time it will take you to study that qualification. For each qualification, they advise 16 to 18 hours of studying if you're studying part-time, which is 2 modules, or if you're studying full-time, which is 4 modules. They advise anywhere between 32 to 36 hours per week of study time. Obviously, that comes down to roughly 8 to 9 hours per module per week. So if you study 3 modules a week, which is perfectly acceptable, you can, if you want to choose to do 3 modules in a week, 3 modules over a year, you can do. Obviously, that comes between 24 to 27 hours per week. I think they don't advise doing any less than 2, just because it's going to take you obviously a very long time. You need to do 4 modules in a year to be able to complete that year's worth of modules. So I think 2 is the minimum. 4 is the maximum. Even if you think you can study more than 32 to 36 hours a week, you can study more than 4 modules. Maybe you think you can do 5. Sadly, 4 is the maximum they will allow you to do. I know that from personal experience when I postponed a course, well, a module till the next year, even though I'd done like 3/4 of it. I asked if I could do that one as an extra one because I wouldn't have to do much work until right at the end. It was basically just the last TMA and an exam to do, and they said I couldn't, so I had to use that module again as another choice for another year. So I know for my own personal experience, you can't do any more than 4, sadly. After you've chosen your course, you can then get to choose your modules. For every year of studying, you get a selection of different modules for you to choose from. Some may be mandatory, for which you will have to choose them, obviously. That's what mandatory means. You will often get a choice between several other modules for you to just basically pick which ones is most appropriate for yourself. Maybe you want to specialise in a particular area. Like, I know, for example, from doing my computing and IT, they have like a more of a networking route and like a web development route. But you can mix and match. There's no like definite right or wrong way to do things. It just allows you to gain the knowledge that you want from that qualification to apply that to your job or potential job after completing the qualification. So each module is usually worth about 30 credits, and the maximum you can have is obviously 120 credits. Again, going back to the fact that you can only do 4 modules in a year. Which is why, for example, the certificate qualification is a maximum of 2 years. I presume it's just 4 modules. You used to do 2 modules per year if you want to go part-time, or you can study all 4 in 1 year and get the full-time way of doing it. Paying for your course is obviously a big decision to make. As far as my modules come from my experience, they cost roughly £1,550 per module for the year. This can be paid in a number of ways. You can either pay straight up front if you've got that cash lying about. You can pay in installments, I believe, or you can do the most popular route, which is using a student loan service, just like you would do if you went to a normal university. The only difference is that for Open University, even if you are studying full-time, you will go through a part-time study loan for student services, student finance, sorry. There's not really much difference at all in them. There's just a much lower maximum amount you can borrow for a part-time study loan, but it is still more than enough to cover the cost of 4 modules if that's what you desire to do. Like I said, I think it's, off the top of my head, it's 6,000 and odd that you can borrow, and it barely just goes above 6,000, I believe, if you take 4 modules. So that's the most popular way of doing it. Of course, like I said, you can just pay out of your own pocket, or if you're studying through your business that you work for or even own maybe, then obviously your company might pay for the studying yourself. Now on to some of the study materials that you are given. Most courses start at October or February. They're the 2 major starting points. As far as I know, there is no other starting points, but I just want to say most of them just in case. So roughly a month before, you're talking September or January, you will receive your study materials that are given out to you. These can range from a vast amount of different ones. These can range from typical study books to DVDs to normal books to examples. You might not receive any study books if your learning is going to take place through a third-party website such as Cisco. I did a Cisco networking module, but all the learning was through the Cisco website. They simply provided the login details for the Cisco, which I could just log on, and I did a lot of I did my assessments through there, and I also did my studying through there because Cisco is like the number one for networking. So you might not get study materials. However, for the vast majority of other modules, you will receive some form of study material. The number of study books you receive completely depends on how your module is broken up. For example, most modules seem to be broken up to 3 parts, so you tend to get 3 different books, even if they continue from one another. I've had maths ones which were split into 4 books, sorry. I've also had some modules that only split into 2 halves, so you've got 2 books. And they're also tying with how you get assessed. Usually, you get the number of books representing to how many TMAs they are in that year. That's from my personal experience. I don't know if that's a rule that they have. But from my experience, if you have 3 TMAs in a year, you will get 3 books because it tends to be split into 3 different parts. But again, might not be true. That's how I feel it happens. So then, some of the materials that you are expected to bring, you're expecting to provide some form of taking notes for yourself. Obviously, taking notes is completely dependent on you. You might not want to take notes. Obviously, it'll be heavily advised that you do take notes throughout your studying, but it's down to you really. You can either obviously do that on pen and paper, you can do that on your computer, Microsoft Word, or maybe you want to do it through OneNote. So it'll sync up with your phone and tablet, PC, Mac, everything. It's completely up to you. Just you just need to provide yourself with some way of taking notes. I know that's pretty obvious, but I just want to make it clear that they don't provide anything for you to write on, or anything like that. The other one that they will heavily advise you to do is have a reliable internet connection that's preferably at your home, as well as your own laptop or computer or Mac as a minimum. That's only because some modules require you to download software, obviously from their servers or from other sites, to your computer, which obviously a public computer or public Wi-Fi at, say, like a library, might not allow you to do, just for like safety reasons on the network. There's a lot of public Wi-Fis that won't let you download stuff through them, just because obviously of hacking and everything else like that. So make sure you've got a reliable connection at home and you've got your own laptop and PC. A lot of the modules that require software, the requirements to run that software have been very minimum. I've not come across any software that is like, it takes a really good computer or laptop to do or anything like that. Obviously, if you're doing something that requires more art and like design type of module, then you might need a more up-to-date computer, let's say, to be able to run that software properly. But from my experience, like I say, most things run on very bare bones laptops. So if you've got a little £300 laptop, you should be more than fine. When studying a course, you will get access to your study planner. It's sort of a guide throughout your entire module for that year. It will tell you on either a weekly or a 2-weekly or maybe even a 3-weekly section roughly what you need to be doing in that little time frame. So often you will get little pointers like read section 1 to section 4.2 of unit 4, for example, and then you might get some online like questions and maybe a video to do or to watch. Obviously it's all up to you with whether you do it or not in that time frame. A lot of people try and get ahead, and I think anyone would advise you to try and get ahead. But obviously it's good if you do fall behind, and then you find some time to catch up, you know what you need to be doing, or if you just want to make sure you do the actual minimum because that's all you've got time for, then you know what you need to be doing in that week or 2-week section, etc. And then as you go along, you can tick it off as you're done. This study planner also provides like reminders to complete TMA for a certain time, complete your ICMAs, EMAs, etc. It will also provide links to like where the TMA is and roughly when to start it. Say your TMA is not due until like 2 months time, but it might remind you to just, hey, try question 1 on the TMA now because you've learned what you need to learn in this week. So it's a good way of staying on top of your studying, and yeah, you get access to that. That's another way of keeping you on track. Another form of help throughout your module studying will be the tutorials. The vast majority of the tutorials are online because obviously Open University is a distance learning university. However, there will be in-person tutorials that you can choose to do if you want. They're not nearly as often, but they are usually located roughly where you live. I think the ones I can sign up for are like a city next to me or something, so it's nothing too far or anything. It's like a quick train journey or even a car journey. So yeah, but I've never done an in-person one, but I've done plenty of the online ones. They are through Adobe Connect. You simply go onto your site and you'll get a long list of different tutorials that you can book yourself onto. Go ahead, book yourself onto it, and then when it comes to the time, you simply join the room and you'll be there with the tutor that is taking that class and then every other student that has decided to join that class. If you want a video on more how Adobe Connect is, then I've got a video which I'll link in the description. Feel free to go through that, and if you got any more questions about that, then please let me know and I'll answer as much as I can. But yeah, that's probably the best video to send you through rather than ramble through how Adobe Connect is on this one. On a further point about tutorials are completely optional. It's up to you. You can go the entire 3-year degree without attending a single tutorial if you want. It's all up to you. They're just there to help if you need to, and especially around assessment times it can be very helpful. They tend to do quite good tutorials on like past assessments that are very similar but not quite obviously not the same, and they can be quite helpful through assessment times. But yeah, they're completely optional. It's up to you. There's no pressure to join them or not. Quick notes on what assessments are. You may have heard me mention them already. I do have videos on all of these individually if you want to take more of a full video on them. But just a quick overlook, the most common one is a TMA, which is a tutor marked assessment, and that's typically like question and answer papers, and you might have some like additional tasks. So for example, I'm doing computer and IT, so some of my modules are programming related, so therefore I will have some programming tasks to do on my computer, like completing some code, etc., which will all be included as well, the like question and answer type style of TMA that is. So that's TMAs. There's ICMAs, which is interactive computer mapped assessments. As the name suggests, they are all online based. You have to go on the Open University website, log yourself in, and then you have a number of questions that are usually multiple choice, but there is some that will require you to type in the answer. That's all marked there and then. It's completely done online. The only major difference I would say between a TMA and an ICMA is a TMA is worth more in your overall assessment grade. An ICMA is got a very strict deadline. There's no extensions you can get for the ICMA, because again it's all automatically done. And also ICMAs tend to be repeatable, so if you go through it once, you don't get the grade that you wanted, you can go through again and get a better one, hopefully. They are usually different questions each time you go through it, but it helps you get a better grade anyway. Then the next lot of assessments are EMA, which is end of module assessment, or exam. You'll get one or the other at the end of your module. The exam is obviously a very standard exam. You go to an assessment centre, you sit down and you complete an exam like you would have done in school. And EMA is very similar to TMA, so if you have activities to do when you do TMAs, chances are you'll have activities to do when you do your EMA. It's basically a TMA but just bigger. I think they advise at least 3 weeks of studying for a TMA, and for an EMA I think they advise like 6 weeks to spend doing it, so it gives you a rough idea of what it's like. But also EMA tends to be worth quite a lot of your overall assessment, as well as an exam. Obviously the exam tends to be worth like a good chunk of your overall assessment, so obviously make sure you do both as best you can, as you would obviously do. So forms like support, because Open University is obviously distance learning, you tend to be quite isolated in yourself unless you're in a situation where someone else at home is also studying Open University. It's very hard to really talk to someone else about going through it. So the Open University has several different options for you. The most common one is the forums. For each tutor group that you're in, for your module, you will have your own set of forums where you can ask questions and you can just generally just talk to people if you want to. A lot of people do it for clarification over TMA questions. Tutors can get on there as well, and people behind the scenes at Open University can log on and help people as best they can. Obviously when it comes to TMAs or any other form of assessment, they won't actually give you the answer, but they may give you a gentle push in the direction. So if you say, hey, I don't understand question 2C, I don't get it, they might say, oh well, just give a quick read of section 2.5 of unit 7, and you know, it's kind of like a gentle push, or they might just say it's unit 7 work. It depends. But yeah, obviously they can't give you the answer because that would be completely cheating, but like I say, they can give you a gentle push, as well as other students will obviously give you a gentle push as well. If a student does put, like, basically puts up the answer to whatever the question is, it usually gets removed pretty quick by tutors, because obviously that would be against the rules of the assessment. So yeah, but for, like I say, they're not used just for assessments, they're used for general queries or just getting to know people. There's usually a little forum open before the module even starts. Usually it's called like an early bird cafe or something like that, where you can just go in and introduce yourself and maybe form like friendships through there before you even start. You know, it's up to you. Obviously for each of your modules you will have your own tutor for that module, and therefore through your tutor you get their contact details usually, which is typically an email address and maybe like some sort of phone number. They're there, they will help you as much as possible, but tutors, as far as I know, tend to not be Open University full-time. They tend to be lecturers in their own life as well, like another university, and to do Open University on the side. So they might not be the quickest at responding. However, whenever I've had to get in touch with my tutors, they've always been very good, and they've always been reasonably quick. I think the only time really I've had any noticeable like long times in response was basically around like assessment times, because they're obviously marking people as, you know, it's just generally a busier life at Open University and in all ends. So, but yeah, you tend to get the email address and you tend to get their phone number. Obviously, like I say, maybe just my advice would be to email them first, and maybe email them a second time, and if they don't respond for like a long time, then try and get in contact through the phone number. I do that just out of respect, because I don't want to be interrupting them through their private life. I think one person had to put up their landline number as their contact details through Open University, and literally when they introduce themselves to you at the beginning of the module, I think she had to like say, hey, this is my landline number. Obviously there's more than just me who lives here, so when you answer, can you please just ask for my name, and don't be surprised when it's a man that answers, or whatever. So out of just respect, I tend to just email them first, and like I say, most of them respond pretty quickly. Now that is mostly everything to do with studying with Open University, to let you know everything that you get and how you should spend your time. However, I will just go through some extra pointers, I suppose. If you get in a situation where you can't study the 8 hours per week, don't worry about it. Don't worry if you get behind. There's plenty of people that get behind. Obviously, Open University is very popular for people who are already working full-time, have families, etc. There will probably become a time where you might fall behind. Just take your time and try and catch up when you can. Don't be afraid to ask your tutors for extensions, for TMAs. Try to not make a habit of it, of course. Try to always hand it in on time, as they might not be able to guarantee you an extension. However, again, from my experience, if I've had to ask for an extension for whatever reason, they've usually been pretty good and give like an extra week sort of thing. So don't worry about that. You might get in the situation where you very rarely have to spend 8 hours a week studying. You find the module very easy. Most you're spending is 4 or 5 hours a week. I did that a lot in the first year, because the first year tends to be pretty standard modules. It's pretty easy to get through. Obviously, as you go up to like level 2 modules and level 3 modules, they tend to have even more and more information, of course, because it's a more detailed module. So just because you're ahead by, say you're studying part-time and you've got 2 modules and you're not even spending 10 hours a week, try to not get too ahead of yourself and then decide you can do more than like 3-4 modules in a year, because the chances are there will become a time where you have a lot of information to get through in not very much time, and that might be more of a might become more of a problem for you than what would have been if you just took your time and did 2 modules in a year and really aced those 2 modules. A big one as well, I think, is trying to make a permanent study area around your house. Not everyone has like an office or an open desk as such to study. I suppose a lot of people might just study like on the living room on the laptop, or they might have the kitchen table or whatever, but my advice would be try and make a permanent study area, just because then it stops a barrier being in the way of you studying. If you have to clear the table every time you want to study, it becomes another reason not to study. It's I know that seems like a very small thing, but just having everything there ready to go so you can just study whenever you want will be very beneficial in the future, especially if you are tight on time. Maybe you've only got like 2 hours to study on an evening. You don't want to spend 15 minutes a day putting stuff away so you can actually get your books out and your laptop out and whatever. So try to make a permanent study area if you can. If not, just try and make it so it's easiest as possible for you to be able to study. And I suppose the last tip is try to not worry about having to give yourself a break, especially if you're one of those people that is working as well as studying. I think you get into a mindset of, if you've got any spare time, you should be spending that time studying. Maybe you sat down, it's 7 o'clock at night, whatever, you want to slap on some Netflix or something, and then you kind of get in the back of your head like, if I've got time to watch Netflix, I've got time to study. Whereas that is the case, I suppose. If you've got time to study, watch TV, you have time to study. Just don't worry about having that time to yourself or with your partner or your kids or parents, whatever. Don't give yourself, don't jump down your own neck for spending time not studying when you should be. Of course, if you're behind a few weeks and then you're still not studying as much as you should, maybe you should be studying more. But as long as you're on time and you're getting the grades that you want and everything done, then don't worry about having like the weekend off sort of thing. Like I say, you get to a bad mentality of judging yourself, even though no one else might. So don't worry about giving yourself a break. Apologies if this video was a little bit longer. or if the video quality wasn't quite there. I'm recording on my phone right now because this is going to be a longer video and I didn't have to stop and start with my camera. But anyway, I just wanted to get everything down in one video, so I haven't got like a spring of different videos. I just want to get everything down so someone who is new to Open University can just sit down and hopefully just watch this one video and then get a good understanding how everything works. Again, I will put links to the various assessment videos that I've done, such as what a TMA is, ICMA, EMA exams, Adobe Connect, those sort of videos. I put them in the description, as well as my social media links. If you want to ask me a question, not everyone wants to ask a question publicly on the comment section of YouTube. A lot of people tend to DM me on Instagram or Twitter. Feel free to do so. My links will be in the description. It's Tom Wagstaff Prod. I'll put it up screen somewhere. But yeah, feel free to ask me on there, or obviously ask me in the YouTube comment section if you want, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for everyone for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in another one in a bit.